Hey everybody, it's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we look back at the previous week in football and soccer, whatever you like, and tackle the things that we thought were interesting. I'm Tom Rennie, alongside me is my co-host at SiriusXM FC, TV star, MLS legend, a man who pulls off a hat like a man a quarter of his age. It's only Brian Dunsteth. Hey Dunny, you all right?
I'm doing fantastic, Rennie. Nice little weekend down at LAFC versus San Jose. The shenanigans that were Decision Day, the end of the MLS regular season, all the hubbub about promotion and relegation. Well, there was plenty on the line, only a few dead rubbers that didn't have anything to play for. But ultimately, we saw some teams just falling off a cliff in these last 5 games of the season. And we see some teams that have found their momentum and could make some big, big decisions in what this playoff race looks like. And by the way, as soon as we're done, a little tooth update for you. I'm going into the doctor today. I'm going into the dentist. So I got to call back.
Son's quarter of a tooth?
Still, maybe like half a tooth back there. I can feel it.
Is it not hurting you every day? Are you not in searing agony? It's concerning you're not in pain, I think. I'm worried about that.
Totally fine. I am eating oatmeal and basically oatmeal, butter, and bananas at this point. But beyond that, everything else is fine. So good. I did get a call the other day, and the dental assistant said, yeah, we're just going to pin you in for about 2 hours. So this afternoon at about 3:30, they're going to do the old, hey, I got nothing behind my back. Here's a needle that's going to go right in your mouth. So, yeah,
well, I mean, if you could live stream that, that'd be fantastic for our brand. That'd be great. Head to YouTube later today and you can see Dunny getting a live tooth replacement.
Can I also tell you one other thing happened this weekend?
Yeah.
My son Shia is going to play at Real Salt Lake Stadium.
What?
For the 2009 Utah State Cup Championship.
2009? Is he going back in time? How's he getting there?
No, he's a 2009 age group. So he's a 15-year-old. So the under 16 State Cup finals, my son gets to play. And he goes, Dad, I'm going to be like you. I get to play at the Real Salt Lake Stadium. I go, no, son. You're going to be the first Dunsteth to play at that stadium because I never got to play there. So it's going to be a fun little. So shout out to Shy. He's worked he's worked his tail off. So best of luck to Utah Avalanche is they're at RSL's big stadium, America First Field, and 4:00 on Tuesday afternoon. That's where I'll be.
And you're gonna be able to go. Like all the dads are gonna be there.
Home.
Oh,
yeah, everybody.
Awesome! That's so cool.
Stadium's gonna be open, and my kid gets to play after watching RSL games all his life. So it's gonna be a pretty cool moment for him.
What are you gonna be like in the stands with your boy playing? Are you gonna be? Do you try and keep the noise down? Are you gonna get into it?
No,
what
I don't
if you hear
talk.
another parent slagging him off? No.
No, they all laugh because I whistle. I have a whistle, and I don't yell at him, but the whistle for my boys, they'll know to look over, and I'll give them like, yeah, calm down, or I'll be like, let's go. So I have like this little interaction with them, but yeah, I don't yell. I'm quiet.
It's him.
Yeah,
that's him.
Thumb in the rib. Give him the ribs. Micah did do that one time. He goes, Dad, and I look over. He goes, and he just jams him. Stop! What are you doing? Dunsethery is real.
That's not meant to be a thing you got from me. I'm an adult man.
Yeah. But by the way, it's hard enough being around parents because the parents in my group are great. It's a great group of parents. And they actually listen to this podcast. They listen to Week in the Tackle.
Hi, parents.
Hello, guys. But no, it's you hear some pretty crazy from parents. It's wild. A lot of people that are trying to relive their monumental teenage moments through their kids vicariously. And there's some, speaking of nutters, hey parents, guess what? Let your kids play. Just let them have fun. Just let them have fun. If they succeed, they're not going to be messy. I promise you. Just have fun.
And you can also have a go at them in the car on the way home. You brought them. That's the win.
Can I give a little piece of advice? Can I give a little piece of advice? Something that works for us. So when we get in the car,
beat them in private.
Doesn't matter, win or lose, tie, whatever. I've figured out a way, and this is how they react the best to me. So I like to share this stuff whenever. I'll ask them. I'll say, so how do you think you did today? Mm-hmm. And so I try to make it personal and have their own perspective on it, rather than me pontificating what I saw. And so then that way they'll give me 2 or 3 things that they felt they did well. And so then I'll say constructive. I'll say, so what do you think you need to be better at? What do you think you need to work on? And they'll talk about like, oh, my movement, or, like I need to be a little bit quicker stepping out of the box, little small things. And I'll say, okay, this is what I saw. And I'll give them like 2 quick bullet points. And I'll say, and remember, that's just what I see. So take it or leave it. And then we switch the subject because then they've talked about it. They've been critical, self-critical. They've listened from a constructive standpoint, and then we leave it alone. Because what I've realized is I've watched my kids and my kids' friends crumble psychologically because the parents are like, why'd you tackle there? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Like, well, I got asked one time, like, why are you like chill? Because I'll just sit back in my chair and I'm like this watching, just hanging out. And like, dude, you like don't move, like you're not excited. And I'm like, no, well, I'm not playing. Why would I get nervous? Like, I'm not playing. These are my kids that are playing. Like, I have fun, man. I get to watch my kids succeed, and if they fail in a controlled environment. So I don't know. For parents out there, just think about it. See how your kids react. Because I think, a lot of times as parents, we do a thing, and yours are still young, but as they get more and more involved in sports or whatever, whatever the path of life looks like, we do a thing where we're just constantly like barking at them and telling them what to do. And I think this way, psychologically, they start realizing and self-evaluating and being self-critical of what they could do to be better in whatever they're doing. And it's my boys are 15, 12, and 6, and it seems to really work for them.
Evaluative analysis for kids as opposed to shouting at them. There's Danny's advice. I tried that.
Still shout at them. No, they deserve it. Still,
yeah.
No, don't keep that. Yeah, keep that.
Just not during the game. Just not during the game. Yeah, my daughter's teacher told me today, or told my wife today, who told me that, yeah, she's not listening in groups. And when you tell her something she doesn't like, she folds her arm and walks off. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right.
Like, yeah.
That's on brand. Who could she have got it from? Yeah, who could she have got it from?
Rennie.
She either shouts at everybody or just folds her arms and storms off. Yeah, probably should work on that. Anyway, football chat. That's it. I want to get to a bit of Arsenal sabotaging themselves. I want to get your view on Liverpool, Chelsea. Got some heroes and villains for you as well that I want to get your view on. Before we do all that, though, I want to start with MLS because regular season has finished and Americans get super hot when it comes to regular season is over. Postseason is what they care about. It's bizarre. We don't understand it as kind of Europeans, but that's America. The season don't mean sorry, Tim, but the postseason is where the good stuff is. Whatever. I don't know. It is what it is. You were working on Decision Day, the final day of MLS season regular. I do want to get to the Miami and Messi of it all because I do think the season points tally is really interesting. Plus the Gianni Infantino. Who the hell do you think you are speaking on the field of it all is quite interesting too. But you were covering the LAFC game where Galaxy were going to be Western Conference champions, but it didn't work out that way. Tell us what happened.
So Tio Max and I were doing the LAFC San Jose game. And on paper, San Jose was the worst team in the league. They were going to end up breaking the record for the most losses, most goals conceded. It's been a real struggle. But going down to the final match day, LA Galaxy was at Houston Dynamo. Now, LA Galaxy, best team in the West all season long. All they had to do was win or draw against Ben Olsen's Houston Dynamo, one of the more difficult teams in the Western Conference. And if they did so, they would win outright the number one spot in the Western Conference. LA Galaxy had to win and also score 2 goals, have a positive +2 goal differential to have an opportunity, should LA Galaxy lose to Houston Dynamo, to take over that top spot with 5 consecutive wins to end the season. Now, here's the complexity of it. Houston Dynamo get the first goal, probably first 18 minutes or so. So we're updating LAFC fans. The problem for LAFC fans in the first 9 minutes, they'd conceded a goal. Jackson Yueill for San Jose gets his first goal of the season. They go into halftime losing 1-0. So Steve Cherundolo has got to make some adjustments. Start of the second half. Denny Bouanga scores a fantastic goal. Edward Atuesta comes off the bench and scores a goal with he literally traps the ball, plays a 1-2 combination with Kai Kamara, and then hits a lawn dart far post side net. So that makes it 2-1. There's a complexity and a nuance to this conversation because Carlos Vela re-signs with LAC a couple of weeks ago. He's on the bench. They've used their 4 subs. They have 1 sub remaining, and guess who it is? Carlos Vela. There's going to be this glorious return, 10 minutes remaining. The only problem is Aaron Long, the center back, starts having cramp. So he's subbed off. Marlon, the Brazilian who used to play for Shakhtar Donetsk before the war broke out in Ukraine, he signed for LA Galaxy or LAFC. He comes off the bench. He scores a fantastic header, far post side net, makes it 3-1. At the final whistle for LAFC, they win 3-1. They get the 3 points. They get the +2 goal differential. And they, at that moment, realized that they are number one in the Western Conference as long as Houston holds on to this 1-0 lead. 90th plus 5, literally 3 minutes after, and we're in the break. We're not in the break. Sorry. The game is over, but we're live on television. I ended up posting it on my Instagram and my TikTok so people kind of see. For Max Bredos and I, we're doing this intricate dance of like live television, scoreboard watching, and trying to figure this all out in real time. So LAFC thinks they win. 2 minutes later, at 90th plus 5, LA Galaxy is awarded a penalty. Gabriel Peck equalizes, makes it 1-1. So LAFC fans and players are like, oh my God, we had it. Oh, what have we done? It's okay. Like, yeah, it's like high fives and hugs. Like, we did our best. Like, still, we're going to be great in the playoffs. 90th plus 11. The fans, the family, everybody's on the field. At 3252 BMO Stadium, fans are still sitting there because it's fan appreciation night. And all of a sudden, fans are like this with their phone. What? What? Yeah, yeah. No, look. And everyone's like, what's happening? I understand what's happening because I've got my computer to my right of where our television monitors are. And I see that Griffin Dorsey for the Houston Dynamo whips a ball in. Daniel Steres, who's a defender, is playing as a striker, formerly of the LA Galaxy, flicks a header, far post. It's side net. They end up going up 2-1 in the 90th plus 11. So the players on the field with their families are looking around at BMO Stadium, the LAFC players, and they're like, what is happening? They look down at their phone. They realize Daniel Steres has just scored to make it 2-1. That means they go from top spot to second, back to top spot. We're doing all of this on live television. It is extraordinary. And you know the complexity of doing all of these things live and how difficult it could be. It was wild. So LA Galaxy, the best team in the West all season long, is now second place. LAFC's first place. And what that effectively means, they ended up level on wins. Goal differential was the second tiebreaker. And now LAFC has home field advantage through the Western Conference playoff final. So that's massive. And right now, you've got LAFC plays the winner of Vancouver and Portland. They will then play the winner, LAFC, of whoever beats their Seattle, Houston. And then LA Galaxy has Colorado. They've been terrible these last 5 games. Real Salt Lake plays Minnesota. Who knows between those two? And so, man, it's going to be one hell of a race out in the Western Conference. I think in the Eastern Conference, to your point about Inter Miami, we'll talk about that. I still think it's Inter Miami and Columbus are looked at as the 2 best teams in the East, dependent upon if they can make it to an Eastern Conference final.
Before we get to the messy bit, I did just want to mention, so forgive me, Danny, I didn't see your coverage of it, but I did see the MLS desk that our friend Kevin Egan was running, the studio bit. And there's a great bit, and I loved it because I've been in this scenario where you're waiting for a result from another game in the stadium. And in the old days, there's a legendary story in like the mid-1990s where Manchester City think that the result that they're currently getting is going to keep them up. And Niall Quinn, who's playing for Man City, keeps the ball in the corner. And then what happens is a player has to run down the sideline with a transistor, like wind-up radio. And he's like, listen, that's not the scoreline. We've got to score. And I spoke to Steve Lomas, who was playing for City on the day about it. And they were like, what? Like literally getting told by the crowd in various, because it was like, it's more immediate on like the radio, but it's obviously harder to get. And it was like 95. It was like CFAX and whatnot. And it was quite interesting watching the Kev Egan stuff, who did a fantastic job in the clip I saw, by the way. Really, really cool celebration when the goal went in. It looked really cool. But it was evident they cut then, because they've seen the goal for Houston. And then they cut to LAFC fans in the stand looking at their phones. And you think, oh, you're going to get this immediate reaction. But obviously you've got
a little bit delay.
The relay delay, then the Wi-Fi in the stadium or your data plan or something. And so it was really good because it was like, they don't know. They don't know. But you know, and there's the bit where the watching millions all know, but the people in the stadium who care the most don't know.
Don't know. Yep.
And it was just a really cool, you actually felt like you knew something, like for the brief period. It was gripping.
You know, gripping. And you know what's great? LAFC, their like internal group, put the game on the big screens. So then the fans and the players could watch the goal that Steres, because there's still like 30 seconds afterwards remaining.
Yeah.
And for those on Twitter, go to Tio Max's Twitter at Max Bredos Sports, because he put the video up, because I don't post on that. So you can see, you know, Max, and I did see Kevin and everybody in the studio. It was to see their reaction, to know our reaction, because they're on MLS 360. Yeah. We're still on the feed for LAFC San Jose, so we don't know how many people are watching. Yeah, man, it was really cool. It was really cool. And then
done. It was brilliant. It was entertaining.
And then to have our bosses from Apple that were there inside the truck watching our producer and director, and for them to say like, you guys were excellent. Like this was an incredible job. Like that's just, it's broad. Like it's a feel good factor. You felt
it's
like
nice when someone says you've done a good job. It's rare, isn't it? It's rare.
Yeah.
It's
you don't get it that often. Yep.
But well done to everyone who worked on Apple that day. Everything I've seen of it, I've seen a decent chunk. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure, Dunny, I mean, I've heard your comms, but I'm sure you were very, very good.
Sure, Britt. Sure, Rennie. Sure.
I'm sure you were. Listen, I do want to talk about the Messi of it, and not necessarily, we did a bit of praise for Inter Miami on a previous show when they were confirmed as Supporters' Shield winners following the Crew game. So look, absolutely throw some praise in for the Messi-less performances they've put in this season, as well as the Messi ones, which has got them to this points tally. But I did want your view on the Gianni Infantino piece. He goes on the field post-match and sort of announces live, because we didn't know, I don't think, this was a qualifying factor. That
no, it wasn't. Nobody
knew this, right? That they were now going to be in the Club World Cup, which is still a bit up in the air as to whether it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Can somebody pay for it? I saw
it's happening.
I saw when I was coming in this morning that Javier Tebas, the La Liga president, who's never, short of a thing to say, said, cancel it. You need to cancel this. It's a bad idea, and went through a bunch of things.
Yeah, good luck.
But tell us about this, because he came on and said, like, oh, and by the way, we have fudged away for Lionel Messi to be in this tournament. And look, of course you should do that if you're trying to sell something, right? He's not stupid, Infantino. But the other piece would be the first game is going to be in Miami as well. To the people at Miami, did they even know this?
Okay, so I'm trying to pull up the exact information because I got this in the middle of the game as this was all going on.
Right.
Fan Appreciation Night, last game of the season for Inter Miami. Obviously, they're Supporter Shield winners. So all of these three things are factors into, we knew after the final whistle, they would be awarded the Supporter Shield, that there was going to be Jorge Mas, David Beckham, and probably a couple of the players were going to address the crowd. That's kind of like the normal final game of the season type thing.
Right, okay.
Where, like you applaud everybody, you do the walk, and then you have the mic, and then you celebrate with your fans like what the year 2024 meant. Sure. I did not realize Gianni Infantino was going to be there, although Gianni Infantino had been in Seattle a few days earlier, confirming that Seattle Sounders were playing in the FIFA Club World Cup and that they would actually see the city of Seattle and the stadium were going to host some of those games. So we were still waiting for the next MLS team to be involved. And it wasn't going to be LAFC, even though they won the U.S. Open Cup trophy. We expected it to be the winner of the MLS Cup trophy, or we expected it to probably be Columbus Crew because they won MLS Cup and their participation in Campeones Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup final, that they've been widely regarded as, outside of Inter Miami, the best team in Major League Soccer with LAFC. So that'd be like the top three teams. Mm-hmm. Game gets over and they start addressing it. And Max and I are getting ready to call our games. I always keep my laptop open and I see Gianni Infantino like grab the mic. And I like look at Tio and I tap him. I was like, dude, we gotta like listen to this. We gotta. And so he steps up and basically, I'm trying to find his this was his quote. So FIFA, this is what I got. Club World Cup update. FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, has confirmed in Miami post-match that Inter Miami is going to participate in the Club World Cup and will also host the opening match at Hard Rock Stadium. He inferred, obviously, it was going to be a sellout 65,000. He said also Inter Miami will open the tournament. So Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are going to open the tournament, the FIFA Club World Cup in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. Without taking a shot at MLS, he inferred the promotion relegation conversation, to your point earlier about Europeans don't really understand the regular season versus the playoffs, that Inter Miami, by virtue of being the best team during the course of the regular season, has qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup, or at least those were the parameters for their inclusion of justifying why they will be at the FIFA Club World Cup without lifting the MLS Cup trophy as the playoffs start on Tuesday night. So,
and that was brand new information, Dunny. That was brand new to you as it was to me, or did you?
The expectation, right. Yeah, the expectation was that it was going to be the MLS Cup winner, which would be confirmed. But this throws a new wrinkle in
Yeah.
if you're going to say that, regular season matters. Well, that's a pretty damn good carrot that you're going to
Yeah.
say best in the league. And listen, it's all about nuance. I don't think Major League Soccer is opposed to any of these things. They're one of the most creative structural leagues that we have around the world, and they're very, very nimble with their rules adjustments, and they're always looking to build a better rat trap. So um, the way it was proposed to me is it sounded like this was a FIFA decision. And the decision, I'm right here. The decision was made by FIFA. So this is Infantino's decision. If you look at where they're going to slide into the tournament, it was very open, the determination of how this slot was going to be given. But again, it's about the money, you moron. It's no doubt. I mean, to have Lionel Messi front and center to start this tournament, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Make it happen, and don't run the risk of them not winning MLS Cup. If you get to decide
exactly.
it, and you've got a justification, you kind of be stupid not to do it. And again, yes, it is the money, you moron. Right, enough of that for now. We'll of course be right across what's happening in MLS Cup over the next couple of weeks. Before we get to a bit of Premier League chat and some winners and losers, I did want to mention this. Some light housekeeping this week. We've got some more housekeeping to come in the next couple of weeks that's going to be really interesting for you. So make sure you stay with us for that. But for now, if you are listening to this program for the first time and are not subscribed, do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're subscribing on Apple, do subscribe on Spotify, vice versa. You can also watch the program in full on YouTube. Plus, we referred to an older show there. All the old shows are on YouTube. So if you want to hear our conversation about how good Inter Miami have been when they won Supporters Shield, last week or the week before, that show is there. Watch in full. And also, do leave us a review as well. The more reviews we get, the more 5-star reviews we get, the higher we go up in people's possible selected podcast they'll listen to next. And write us a review if you can as well. This came in this week from Mindful Warrior on Apple Podcasts, who says, "Great show. I just cannot get enough of you guys' brilliant deep dive analysis into the dumpster fire of flaming hubris that is, I tend to win things in the second year. Ange Postecoglou. The Premier League is a better place with Week in the Tackle and Ange in it. I was not paid a thing, not even a compliment for this shout. And as always, sorry, Tim." Excellent, excellent review, Mindful Warrior. We thank you. We love you. We'd like more reviews, please. Right. Let's get to Premier League. I want to talk a bit about Arsenal because I worked on this game at the weekend, and I've got to tell you, I was doing the game alongside Dave Kitson. I love Dave Kitson. He's such a great analyst, and he's got such a great personality. And, he doesn't guard anything, which is great. But I'm a bit like that as well. I try not to be, but he draws that out of me, I think, as you do as well, frankly. And
no.
And when the ball goes over the top from Trossard and Evan Nilsson's in and Saliba fouls him, we were like, well, that's a clear denial of a goal scoring opportunity. He's got to be sent off. It was given a yellow. It was overturned as a red. And we said in commentary, and here come the conspiracy theorists. Here come the, we have been hard done by. Here comes the whatever. And sure enough, within seconds, we're getting memes of Howard Webb in the crowd, looking like he might have an earpiece in, which I don't think he does, texting somebody during the VAR call, and it's like, oh, it's an agenda against Arsenal. And, my first thought on that is there's no way the Premier League would be unhappy with Arsenal being champion. So what are you talking about? One of the most storied clubs in the world, who are the most marketable club you could possibly imagine, with legions of fans all over the world, winning their first Premier League in 20 years. There's no way the Premier League, who are basically in open warfare with Manchester City, would have some sort of conspiratorial agenda to stop that from happening. That's insanity. And anyone who's pushing that realistically, I don't know. God help you. So park that. The issue for me, Dunny, which I wanted to get your view on, which kind of goes to a bit of Gary O'Neill and Wolves as well, is that when you create that narrative, Jose Mourinho used to always do it. The world's against us. The Millwall thing. They don't like us. We don't care. But at some point, do we not need to discuss the fact that Arsenal have got a sabotage problem, a self-sabotage problem? And it could be mentality. It could be the fact this fever is running through the club that they're so hard done by. It could be the fact that 2 years ago, they should have won the Premier League and it took a set of happenstance to stop it from happening. I don't know, right? But like the Declan Rice red card, the bleating about that was ridiculous. It was a clear second yellow. He definitely did it. You just need to accept it and move on. Leandro Trossard was a clear second yellow against Man City. You just need to accept it and move on. And this one, I had floods of it from my friends in WhatsApp groups, as well as on the various social medias I'm on, officially or otherwise. They're out to get us. It's a conspiracy. Look at the one yet the following day in the game between Chelsea and Liverpool. They're out to get us and not to get them and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. I don't know how they solve this, but clearly they have got this complex of sabotage going on. It was a bad decision. And I'd love to know, Dunny, your thoughts on how you get out of it. Because I think at the moment it's pretty clear. If you've got 3 red cards in 8 games, and in my sort of mathematics, to get 95 points, they can only drop like 19 points all season. I don't know if this can continue if they are to be title challengers this season. Because again, look at City of the weekend. They just ain't going to drop many points.
Yeah, and last year I think they lost 3, drew 7. Arsenal lost 5, drew 5. So you still got some time, but yeah, you just don't at this stage of the season, you don't want to be dropping the full 3 points. Yeah, I thought Declan Rice in his post-game interview was probably the smartest interview of all of them post-match, where he's talking about the mistakes made and the accountability for the players, talking about himself as well, the Brighton game, the Man City game, and now the game this weekend. Listen, first
Liverpool
off,
Arsenal on Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, credit to Bournemouth. I thought they played really well. This is one of those games where, the turtleneck can continue to build upon the success, and hopefully Tyler Adams, from an American perspective, he was on the bench and available, didn't play, but has an opportunity to continue to work himself back into the fold.
Great coach to work with as well. Bit like Pochettino. He's going to love working for Iriola.
I agree. Don't understand what Trossard was doing. He's 60, 70 yards away from his goal, trying to hit a looping back pass under pressure. Saliba, in that situation, you would think would want to be more goal side, but I don't think he's prepared for that ball. Who would be prepared for that ball? And for the goalkeeper, Raya, the moment he takes any step backwards indicates that Evan Nielsen has the jump, and this is going to be a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. If he would have been more proactive off his line and tried to chase that ball down, I think it would have been just a straight yellow card, similar to what we saw Tosun against Jota yesterday afternoon, 5 minutes in. Although that's more of a defender closer to him. If the defender wasn't there,
I might have given a red for that as well, though, Danny. I mean,
I thought it was a red. I thought it was a red. But again, the defender was close enough to justify why you didn't show red. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? That Liverpool ends up winning. By the way, the schedule upcoming, Saliba will miss Liverpool, but then they have Shakhtar Donetsk at home, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, Inter Milan away, and then Chelsea away coming up. So this is a really big stretch of games, both internationally and domestically, for Mikel Arteta's side. Listen, they're a fantastic team. I also wonder if you caught Mikel Arteta in a private moment now that wouldn't go public, if he would have taken off Raheem Sterling and put Kivior on again. Julian Timber being unavailable hurts them. I don't think Kivior sees the field. I don't think Zinchenko sees the field if they have that 4 plus Timber available with that type of rotation. Those 5 defenders are solid enough. Or maybe you tuck Ben White in a little bit more centrally and bring yourself in another midfielder. But listen, if Martinelli scores that goal and it's 1-1, they hold on for the point, and we're not having this conversation. But yes, you are correct. 3 reds in 8 games now creates a chatter, and it's not the type of chatter that you necessarily want if you're Mikel Arteta and this group of players.
We won't do much more on it, but credit to Bournemouth. You mentioned it earlier on. The goal they scored, the Christie volley from the flick from Kluivert is absolutely fantastic. An incredibly well-worked corner routine against Arsenal, which is always fantastic to see. The other thing I wanted to ask you about this game was about the tactics with 10 men, because it was a topic after the Brighton game, and I worked on that game as well. When Declan Rice gets sent off, and in commentary, we really noticed it. they went so defensive and so deep. No out ball. Havertz was the furthest man forward back in that game. Brighton had all the ball, dominated the game. And then we were talking about Man City wouldn't do this, but Arsenal are doing this. Again, they're not the same team and it's chalk and cheese. I get that. But like they just went exactly what sort of West Ham would do or whatever. Well, West Ham would concede 10, but you get my point. Whereas, against Man City, you'd expect it. I didn't expect it against Brighton. I certainly didn't expect it against Bournemouth this weekend. They went so negative, hold on for dear life, in tactic. And sometimes when a team go down to 10, they get, if not more creative, they certainly play differently. They have an attacking strategy that sort of worked on it. It's clear this was intentional. I suppose my question to you is it wise? Is that something that you would see Arsenal doing again, considering it's not really paid dividends? The 3 times in 8 they've done it.
Again, that's why I go back to the Raheem Sterling sub. And maybe more importantly, I go back to the acknowledgement of Odegaard and Saka not being available. Because I think when you have those type of players on the field, you can be a transition team and you can keep look at Manchester United. They're nothing more than a transition team. But when you get them in the shadows, they're ruthless, right? And I know we might touch on them, we might not. But, Rashford on that right-hand side, Garnacho opposite, you find them into spaces in transition moments. They are ruthless. So I think the nuance, the conversation about Arsenal, could they go back and change it if they had that opportunity? I would assume they would tactically, now that they knew what the result was going to look like. But I also think, Arsenal, as you say, we compare and contrast them to Man City for all the right reasons, but they are a different team. And I think they are comfortable absorbing and hitting, as opposed to, oh, hey, take the ball. We're gonna ping pong the ball around, and I think they showed. I think that Arsenal showed the right amount of character, and that's the best compliment I can give them, because they should have got the point. They didn't get the point. They'll be frustrated. It's not deceptive. It's clear that they've got some issues, but I still think it's one of the best teams in the Premier League. Now, the margins for continuing to drop points are going to become skinnier by the moment, should they not find the rhythm that's necessary.
But drop the conspiracy theory nonsense. Just drop it. Drop it now. It's no good for you. The other game I want to get a quick view on before we do some heroes and villains is the Liverpool-Chelsea match. Some really interesting narratives from that, including only Pep Guardiola has reached 10 wins in all competitions as a Premier League manager in fewer matches than Arne Slot, 10 in 11. It's worth noting that season Guardiola did it. They squeaked 4th on the final day, so it's no guarantee they're going to be champions or anything. And also a separate narrative, and again, it's apropos of nothing, but I thought it was quite interesting, that David Raya had a kind of life event the night before the Bournemouth game. He sort of got engaged, and everyone was like, oh, you can't do things like that the night before a game, because if you do that, you're going to have a nightmare match because you're not focused. Whereas the night before the Liverpool game, Curtis Jones had a baby and had his best ever performance for Liverpool. So I don't know. Right. I thought that was quite a ridiculous but quite funny sort of thing. But what did you make to this? Because everyone was like, Chelsea are going to be the sternest test of Liverpool so far. And maybe they were. It was a pretty even game in lots of ways. But Liverpool, they just look really professional. I don't know. There's something different about them. What say you?
Well, I really like Arne Slot. I like his personality on the sidelines. I like the way he verbalizes things. He shows the right nuance, I think, when it was when it's all said and done. He gets high when he wants to get high. He's, I think, very ruthless when he wants to get ruthless. By the way, he's probably fortunate that he didn't get a hold of that ball that he tried to punt during the the potential for the breakaway chance, and he thought that there should have been a red card. Because if he catches that ball, I think the referee would have had every reason to. I mean, the ball comes over and he swings it and he kind of whiffs on it. But if he launches that ball back in the field, I mean, I could see a referee sending him off for that, because he was already shown yellow for the action.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, I like him. I like him. I was saying this to Miola on counterattack. I think that, the cult of personality that was Jurgen Klopp wasn't just the fearless leader on the field and the tactics and the shape and the identity and the success and the Premier League title. It was also that from a morality standpoint, he was so front-facing in the media. While you didn't always agree with his opinion, for the most part, it felt like 95% of the time, a lot of like the general soccer fan base around the world appreciated his stance on things. And we kind of talked about, the poison chalice of replacing him and the difficulty that a potential manager was going to have. And, there's a couple names associated with Liverpool. And when they ended with Arne Slot, it wasn't one of those that was like, dude, we got Arne Slot. Like, yeah. It was more like, huh, okay, well, it's had a good amount of
Who's that?
success. Well, it's had a good amount of success in Holland. I think people would be generally aware of him. Um, but I mean, look at Eric Ten Hag this year, pleading for patience, while Arne Slot is very like Luis Diaz-ish, where he comes in and just needs no adaptation and immediately starts looking like not only a Liverpool player, but looking like a Liverpool manager in Arne Slot. So, yeah, I mean, anything I say is only going to be complimentary because I think the start has been outstanding.
Yeah.
And I didn't have them in my top four because I thought that there was going to be a struggle with the nuance of whatever the new game model was. But it seems as if he's gotten the best out of this group and added just maybe another continued layer in his perspective or philosophical approach of how he wants his game to play. And yeah, it's tough. But I thought Chelsea was good too, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm impressed by Chelsea. They passed the eyeball test. They're fun to watch. They're still loose defensively. They're still naive in moments. There's still some really immature seconds that you find. Interesting that Joao Felix can't find the field. Reece James getting back. That was great to see. Cole Palmer's phenomenal. Nicholas Jackson, you don't have to be sorry, Miss Jackson, because he is for real, some would say.
With jokes like that, you'll become an outcast on this podcast sooner rather than later.
I feel like I'm an
He's got the whole world in his hands. Hey,
Okay.
some would say.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough of that. Sorry, Tim. Let's do some heroes and villains from the weekend.
Yeah.
I've got a hero to start us off, and that is the fictional Coronation Street character Roy Cropper. Coronation Street is a long-running soap opera in the UK. It's been running since like 1965 or something like that. And the actor David Nielsen has been playing Roy Cropper since 1995. Now, Roy, in character, is a Blackburn Rovers fan, but it turns out in real life, the actor is a Leicester City fan, and he was in the stands at St Mary's with the Leicester fans this weekend when they were 2-0 down and won by 3-2. And famous family-friendly character Roy Cropper was filmed in the stand singing 2-0, and you f***ed it up, 2-0, and you f***ed it up. Sorry, Tim, which
amazing.
was really excellent, like a lovable family character. I don't know, a Mr. Rogers or whatever type in a soap opera, and it was just really juxtaposingly odd to see it. But not just Roy Cropper, also Steve Cooper and Leicester City. The comeback was fantastic. The Southampton shooting themselves in the foot element is a whole other conversation. But Steve Cooper, who's not universally liked at Leicester City, they wanted to keep Maresca. Then they wanted Graham Potter, by all accounts. These are the Leicester fans I know telling me this. Steve Cooper comes in, former Forest man. That's not going to endear you to the fan base anyway. And he's bold. He brings on Harry Winks at halftime when they're 2-0 down to try and get control of the game, which he does. He ends up taking the corner, which leads to the equaliser. Abdul Fatawu, a player I don't know particularly well, but it was phenomenal on the right-hand side. Jordan Ayew, who seemed a bit of a kind of busted flash at Palace and like he'd run his race, scoring the late goal, 98th minute winner, Leicester's latest in their Premier League history to win a game. A great turnaround, and also Jamie Vardy scoring a brilliant penalty when he wouldn't have got the penalty unless he absolutely made sure that everyone knew he was fouled when he doesn't score that open goal. And then he picks up the ball, runs to the Southampton fans. There's no beef. There's no historic beef between Leicester and Southampton.
Just create it.
Like he's been there with a 9-0 victory. So if anything, the beef should go the other way. Twice, I think he's been there for a 9-0 victory. But he's there just going up to like families and like near a disabled section. And he's just like, F you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. For no reason. So Roy Cropper and
Jamie
Leicester.
Vardy having a party. Oh, he's great. My hero of the week, I'm gonna go with Christian Pulisic. I'm gonna go Captain America.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw this in his post-game match after he got another assist. And by the way, goal contributions since the start of last season, he only trails Lautaro Martinez. I mean, it's been incredible, this move for him to AC Milan under two different managers. Post-match, he does his first interview, I believe, on live television in Italian. He was clean. He was simple. You could tell throughout the course of his career, not a big fan of stepping in front of the microphone. He understands it's part of the job, things that he's got to do. He's not an extrovert,
No.
but to have the Stones after about a year and a half, you pick up the language, but it's different. Like you're talking to your teammates or you're ordering some food or a coffee, that's a little bit different than doing an interview. So the interview is in Italian. He responds in Italian, very clean, very simple. They ask another question basically about the number 10 jersey playing all over the place. Are you going to take Mike Magnon's gloves and for the next position? He responds. You can tell he kind of gets tripped up in his mind thinking about the translation. But ultimately, I mean, it was great, man. Like, congratulations to him. That's what you want to see. And by the way, they're going to build a statue, or they're at least going to give him the captain's armband because the Milan fans are absolutely taken with Christian Pulisic. So yeah, man, I just thought that was a really cool moment. It blew up on social media, and it's what you want to see, guys adapting to the culture and the language and the country in which they play in.
Yeah, and it's great as well. Second time he's done it as well, because of course when he moved to England, he learned English really fast as well. So well done to.
He does
Christian
speak German
Pulisic
as well. Yeah.
Yes, I know he does, but that's not the joke I'm doing. All right, what do you want from me? Yeah, absolutely. He's been fantastic, Christian Pulisic, no doubt about that. Let's get to some villains. I did want to. It is slightly larger than usual family show, but I did want to mention this. So Gary O'Neill, and I always mention this. I've worked with Gary. I know Gary, and he's the Wolves manager, and so I always have a soft spot for him. And so I'll throw that out there now that I kind of err towards being sympathetic to Gary O'Neill in a way that maybe I'm not with, someone like Juan Lopetegui, who we're not talking about this week, or maybe we will. I don't know. What your villain is.
Graham Potter.
Oh, just get him in for goodness sake. But Gary O'Neill has had a really interesting time at Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're bottom of the league, though. I don't think they're going to go down. They'll be fine. They've had a just awful run of games to start the season. They'll pick up points over November, December, January. But he said post-game, and he's getting a bit of a coaching for it today, that there is an unconscious bias from officials towards the bigger clubs. And he said, look, and he actually said, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm not saying there's agenda. I'm not saying anyone is doing this on purpose. There's no way any of that is true.
He was smart how he verbalized it, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't have the whole verbatim quote in front of me, but he basically said, look at these games, look at these moments, look at the history of football in these big moments, totally unconsciously, knowing they've got a big narrative and we don't have a big narrative, things tend to go their way. And he's getting a bit of a kicking for it. And I thought, look, there's an argument here that he also makes quite eloquently, that the Bernardo Silva standing in front of Jose Sá this weekend is very similar to one last season when Max Kilman scores for Wolves against West Ham in the 95th minute. There was a player in front of Fabianski. There's no way Fabianski was ever going to save Kilman's header, but because the Wolves defender was standing near him,
He directly in front of him. He was directly in front of him.
Directly in front of him. So it is slightly different, absolutely. Yeah. But also Bernardo Silva before the Stones header, he does shove.
He nudged him. Yeah, he shouldered him. Yeah,
so he's changed his position before the header comes in, and then there's another half second. And look, I'm happy to be convinced either way on this one. So, I'm sure Gary O'Neill feels genuinely like this. But he made a really interesting point, Danny, and you've followed Man United for years. Like, how many years was it when a penalty wasn't given at Old Trafford? Like 20? And there's no way there wasn't a
penalty.
A
rollicking from Sir Alex, yeah.
Well, like Roy Keane would have a go at you. And they've said, I was afraid of Roy Keane. Referees have said that. We know referees have said, Mark Clattenburg, I managed the game, not just to the laws of the game. And I think Gary O'Neill, people having a go at him for saying there's subconscious bias to the big teams. Like, no, I'm sorry. There is, and there always has been. And you kind of have to expect that in a way. What did you make to it?
Yeah, I don't think what he said was wrong. I think it probably would have had more of a hit had they not been the worst team in the Premier League, the feel. Because listen, going back in that locker room, those boys proved to themselves that they could play against Man City on their day. And hopefully this is one of those moments where they look back and it's like, yeah, dude, that was the game that, helped propel us in the right direction. I can only imagine doing in their primes, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Neymar, those stuff, and being a referee. And I think there is a conversation about managing the game, and managing the players. There's nuance to all of this, and I don't think he's wrong. I think it's smart to have this conversation, but it probably just doesn't hit the way it hits the way he intended it to hit. But the reaction is going to be what the reaction is, no matter what. Yeah. So. Yeah,
but for me, the villain is the people vilifying him. By the way, not Gary O'Neill, who I think was right. I can't make Gary the villain of the week. He will never take my calls again.
My villain of the week is the bullshit, sorry, Tim, surrounding Manchester United even thinking about trying to complain about giving that goal up when Matthias de Ligt was forced off with blood coming out of his head. Listen, first off, I don't know how he got a yellow card in the challenge, which literally he got kneed and opened up in that play. Secondly,
for that?
Yeah.
What?
I'm almost I need to go back and look. I thought he got booked for that. Oh, give me a sec. You keep talking while I look it up.
We'll just hold the fort.
Hold on. 3, 2, 1.
Got me tea
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Oh,
he wasn't.
No, there we go.
Good.
Didn't think it happened.
I'm an
That's
idiot.
insane.
Scratch that.
What an insane thing to happen.
So he comes off and he's got to get, he's bloodied up and he's got blood coming down. I'm like, bandage him up. First thought, bandage him up. Deal with it at halftime. Stitch him up at halftime. Yeah. Here, like how many millions of pounds does this medical staff have for them to literally dip 2 fingers in a vat of gasoline and smash it on his head and think that that's going to stop blood from dripping out of his head, which was an open wound from getting kneed in the head? I'm sitting on the plane in my internal dialogue is screaming, fucking give him the Q-tip. Sorry, Tim. Like, put the pad, wrap him, put the stretch tape so he doesn't cut off circulation, give himself an aneurysm, get in the halftime break, stitch him up, clean him up, do whatever. I don't understand. To have it happen for 2 separate occasions, and then he's like, oh, it was dry blood. The fuck are we talking about? Sorry, Tim. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And then, by the way, quick little side note, just because he was off the field isn't the reason why they conceded. For the 100th million time, can we just put Diogo Dalot on a post? Like, he obviously can't defend. He can't defend anything. Like, the amount of goals that he's been responsible for, whether not tracking a run, not staying with a run, getting beat at the back post, not marking his man on a set piece, not marking his man on a corner kick. He literally did not fucking try. Sorry, Tim. Like, he didn't try at all. He didn't get picked. There was no movement. He didn't even try. Like, good on Pinnock for getting his goal. Like, it's a great goal. But, like, that has nothing to do with Matthias de Ligt being out. Like, oh, shoot, he's not playing. I got to mark the guy. Okay, I got to wrap him up. Like, get touched tight. You didn't even touch him. It's crazy to me. I've taken crazy pills. By the way, Garnacho was fantastic once again.
Yeah,
and who would have known that Marcus
well.
Rashford, playing on the right-hand side, could hit a 70-yard dime and pick out, an opposite wing. Oh, maybe we do play dominant foot on dominant side. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense.
There was no way of knowing.
Sorry, Tim.
It's West Ham Man U on Sunday.
What do we got on it? God, we're both deflated.
Just misery. Do you know what? Just misery. Just so.
I got an idea. Yeah. We have to read our next show, our next week in the tackle. We have to read, and we can still bleep it out, our WhatsApps back and forth.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Fair.
I'm going to be there. So I'm going to be texting you live from the game. So
I'm so jealous.
So I'll at 3-0, I'm leaving. Okay. When Rashford scores the third and the fourth.
No, you got to stay.
When Lopetegui's like, oh, should we play any midfielders who can run? He's like, screw it.
Lopetegui get fired? Is he going to get fired?
I think it would take a lot. I think he'll get the first half of the season. I think he should be fired, frankly. I think I would get Graham Potter in now. I would chalk this up as a mistake. Bad hire. He's doing a bad job, but I think he gets to Christmas.
Well, I mean, you got an interesting schedule.
Well, they had tough games, so they should have a relatively easy run of home games coming up.
United at home, at Forest the following weekend, home against Everton, and that gets you into the international break. Here's where you might want to think about making a change, because you come out of international break, you're at Newcastle, home against Arsenal, away against Leicester, home against Wolves. That gets you to December 9th.
Well, look, I think from that run of games, I would expect that team to win at least 4 of those matches in some order. But they haven't beat a team in the top half for a year. They've only won, I think, 8 games in 2024. And at the moment, I mean, we ain't got time for this now. I could do it for an hour. But, like, nothing he is doing has improved West Ham at all when he's been in charge for 4 months. Every other manager I can think of who's come into a club, Fabian Hertzler, Arne Slot, you can see things they have done to improve it. And right now, everything Lopetegui has done is either inconsequential or has made things actually worse, including Mohamed Kudus, by the way, who should get more of a suspension for the idiocy of what he did.
What's he doing? Twice.
But like in the face.
Face slaps twice.
Do it in the chest, you're fine. What are you doing? And then again, he should get a second ban for the second
one. Did like a little kickoff. He did a little kick too. Yeah.
He wouldn't do that with the old manager. That tells me something's really wrong. That tells me something really,
That's a good point.
really wrong. I think the old manager would have been able to put a lid on that.
You know, some idiot on the channel in our predictive Giorgio mugs had West Ham coming in fourth.
Foolish. I mean, look, this is the Lopetegui. I mean, look, we've got time, but if this is why Lopetegui's not getting sacked, because they are not going to go down this year. There's no way that team, even with like an inanimate carbon rod in charge, wouldn't get the 40 points required. They're going to get it. But
you say that, but Mavropanos still has a chance of playing.
This has been Week in the Tackle. I'm Tom Rennie. That's Brian Dunset. Tim Horsey produced the programme. If Man U win, I don't know. We might not see you next week, but bye.